Good evening, guys. Hey, coming at you from beautiful Boston. I don't know if you can see it in the background. Let me try to turn the light out, see if you can get a better view here. It is, yeah, kind of there. Can't see me. It looks like kind of creepy here with me in the dark. But beautiful view of downtown Boston. You can see the Charles River and Harvard campus there in the background. The Prudential building is just off to my side, but just a beautiful, beautiful city here. I love it because I'm a history buff, so I did some sightseeing today. In between meetings, I ran down and got a chance to see the old State House. That's where the Massachusetts Constitution was written in 1780. It's the oldest working state constitution, and that actually became the framework for our Constitution 7 years later, written by John Adams. It was the first constitution that put together the three forms of government, three branches, the executive, the judicial, and the legislative. Then I went down to go see the old Southside Church, which was the gathering place of John Adams and Samuel Adams and Paul Revere, John Hancock, James Otis, where the planning for the Boston Tea Party took place, where the Boston Massacre took place. And I'm just a history buff, and it's just kind of neat and exciting to realize how much of our history took place there. And pay attention, because at the end of this, I'm going to talk about, and not to be melodramatic, but there's some very serious history going to be taking place in the next couple of weeks in Washington, D.C. with the shared parenting community, something that's never been done before yet, and very, very excited about it. But I want to give you guys sort of an update. I think most of you know last week I was in Washington, D.C., had some great meetings, had 3 different meetings at the White House, had over 30 meetings with different members of U.S. Congress and or their chief of staff or policy directors. Those meetings went phenomenally well. Had several meetings at the Heritage Foundation and several other larger organizations around D.C., trying to build up because what I've always said is we're just not going to win this battle on our own. We just don't have enough trained people who know what they're doing, and that's not a put down. But we're going against professional lobbyists with the attorneys and the bar associations, the domestic violence groups that have paid lobbyists that are paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and they know what they're doing. They've been trained. They've been doing it for decades. And we're going up with a bunch of ragtag people trying to make a difference. Well, it makes a lot. We still want to keep those people, but we want to, number one, train everybody so they know what to do. But more importantly, we need to start partnering with larger organizations that already have that influence. And that's why I'm in Boston this week, getting a chance to meet with some people. And it's been a very exciting week up here. I got a chance to meet with the deputy director for the Department of Education. And we had a very good, Brian Lee, how you doing? And I think I saw Linda Jones' name pop up there. It's kind of hard to see on the screen up here, but I had a very good meeting with the deputy director for the Department of Education, who works directly with Linda McMahon, and talked quite a bit about Title IX issues on college campuses. We're on college campus, as most of you know, somebody can go on a date. The girl either doesn't like the date, gets mad at the guy, or she was cheating on somebody and says, oh, I was forced to do something, and makes up some false allegations. And in most college campuses across the country, there is no due process. A guy immediately gets kicked out of the school. There's no due process. He has no right to address his accuser. And what happens with Title IX issues moves into the family courtroom. And it starts in Title IX issues on college campuses before it ever really does move into the courtrooms. And there's some serious things that have been going on that we're working on some changes. So I had a very, very good meeting with her about some Title IX issues with college campuses. We're going to be having some follow-up meetings in Washington, D.C. in the next few weeks. Got a chance to meet with Lindy Titchener, the senator from Kentucky. Had a great talk. I had a couple of conference calls about a week ago. I had gotten a call from another senator from Kentucky that was wanting me to help him sponsor a couple of bills down there. Got a chance to meet with Michael King of the Massachusetts Family Institute. And that's, once again, you've got to start partnering with organizations. Massachusetts Family Institute has their tentacles in the Massachusetts legislature. So that's the type of organization we're going to be partnering with. Got a chance to see my friend Paul Tiller. Most of you know I've known Paul for going on 9 years now. Paul was the chief of staff for Ted Cruz years ago, and then in the first administration for Trump, he was the legislative director for all 4 years. Which most of you know, if you're working for Trump and you keep your job all 4 years, that's saying something. So, but Paul's just a wealth of knowledge. Paul's starting a new consulting firm right now, and kind of neat. We had a lot of good discussions this week. So some of you are going to get a chance to meet Paul in November. Got a chance to meet Phil Sarnecki, running for governor of Kansas. Some of you know, in the Kansas governor's race right now, Kansas is a state that whoever is the Republican candidate is probably going to win. And so as a result, right now, there are, I believe, either 8 or 9 people in the primary. 5 legitimate candidates that really do have a chance. The unique thing about Phil is he's the only independent businessman. He's run a bunch of successful companies. His dad was a janitor and grew up, and Phil just started a bunch of businesses that became very, very successful. So the other 4 legitimate candidates are all current members of the legislature of Kansas. 3 of them are good friends of mine, so not in any way putting them down, but they've all been basically career politicians. Phil is seen as the outsider, and in all the polling data, it's showing that that's what people of Kansas still want. They want an outsider. They want a business person. They don't want a career politician. So the theory is those 4 are probably going to split the vote 4 ways because they're going after the same voters, whereas Phil has kind of an open lane. So there is a very good chance Phil could be the next governor of Kansas. And I happen to be one of his biggest supporter is Rich and Faye Bott. Some of you may know the Bott Radio Network. I think they own over 130 stations across the country, maybe more, but they've been good friends of mine for years. Really, really neat couple from the Kansas City area. And they are the biggest backers of Phil and his campaign. So at dinner tonight, I got a chance to spend some one-on-one time with Phil. His campaign manager, Hunter, was one of the campaign managers for Josh Hawley. Some of you know, if Linda Jones is still on here, Linda knows. Josh, the current U.S. Senator from Missouri, but Hunter helped run that campaign. Hunter is now running Phil's campaign. So we had a good discussion, and I mean an in-depth discussion on fatherhood issues tonight with Phil. And I mean, I'm not kidding when I tell you, it was a very, very intense discussion. So I do feel very good that if Phil does become governor, we're going to have a very good open door, and we're going to get some programs for fathers in the state of Kansas. I had a real good talk with Ann Schlafly, not Phyllis Schlafly. She passed away in 2016, but her daughter Ann was here. It was kind of neat too, because Ann, unbeknownst to me, Ann was talking to Rich and Faye Bott earlier in the day, and Rich comes up to me and he's like, Ann tells me that I really need to spend some quality time with you, hearing about your fatherhood issues. I want to hear more about all the stuff that you're doing for fathers and for kids of divorce. So I had spent some time, but then Rich said, we're going to get you on some radio stations all across this country. I want to get some more coverage for this. So really appreciate Ann Schlafly doing that. Had a great conversation with Ben Graham that works with the current White House administration. Ben and I have been sort of distant acquaintances, but a buddy of mine, Jerry Angelo, that some of you may know, Jerry's with me this week. He's actually a guest of mine this week. And Jerry's very, very well known on marriage and family issues all around the country. And he's actually very good friends with Ben Graham. So we had some really good talks there. Some of you may get a chance to meet Ben in November. That's something that's coming up. Had a really good talk with Chris Ruddy, the CEO and president of Newsmax, who, by the way, Time Magazine, I guess it was about a year ago, named him as one of the top 10 most influential media personalities in the world. With his Newsmax station. So we had a good talk, and we did literally talk about our issues as well. And Chris said the same thing. He's going to try and get me on some of his national broadcasts that he has on Newsmax this coming year. While I was talking to him, and Paul Teller was there with me, and some of you know a girl named Bunny Pounds. Bunny is the one that during the 250th anniversary next year, she's organizing. They're going to read the entire Bible from start to finish at the Museum of the Bible. And so they have all kinds of members of Congress and state legislators and actors and actresses that are going to be flying in to read a chapter of the Bible. But we were talking at one point, Bunny was there, Paul Teller was there, Chris Ruddy from Newsmax was there, and then also Cheryl, I forget her last name, but she's with the Washington Times, and so I had a really good talk with her too about trying to get some coverage about our issues in the Washington Times. Got a chance to meet with the Assistant Secretary to Robert Kennedy over at HHS. And very good discussion there. The Trail Life founder, his name escapes me right now. Some of you may know, but a very, very good guy. He's going to potentially start working with me on this White House Commission for Boys and Men. A chance to visit with Tony Perkins. Tony had to leave. They had a dinner tonight at Mount Vernon with the president. So there was I think there was 2 jets full of people that were flying to D.C. tonight to have dinner with the president at Mount Vernon. And then I think about 60 people from the event that I'm at are all flying. Either they've left already or they're leaving early in the morning to be a part of the presentation tomorrow at State Farm, including Jerry. Matter of fact, Jerry's actually staying, we're roommates, 2 different beds, just to clarify. But Jerry and his wife are going. They got invited, so they'll be on the floor tomorrow at the State Farm Arena. So I think he leaves at like 4 in the morning to head down there. But there's about 60 people up here that were all very good friends of Charlie's, so they're all going down for the funeral tomorrow at State Farm. Got to meet with Laurel Libby from a state rep from Maine. And then, tonight, Lee Habib and his daughter, actually. Lee is the one who does the Our American Stories that they do on radio, and they've got a YouTube channel they're starting to build. And they talked to me about interviewing me for one of the Our American Stories, highlighting the fact that there's a lot of fathers out there and mothers too. Like I said, I'll fight for either one because I'm fighting for the kids. I'm not fighting for the mom or the dad. But it sounds like they're going to do sort of a little feature that hopefully will get us some more awareness. But I say all that to say this, guys. There's been a lot of seeds planted, and I know a lot of you have been frustrated, thinking you're always going to D.C. When are we going to see some action? When are we going to see some results? I know it's frustrating, guys, but there's a lot of seeds that have to be planted, a lot of relationships that have to be built. And I know it's frustrating. It's no different than when you were a kid and you'd see a building being built, and while they're pouring the concrete, you're like, I don't see any building being built. Well, no, they're laying the foundation first. And the bigger the building, the longer it takes to build the foundation. Well, we're wanting to do some dramatic changes in Washington, D.C. in 3 different areas. The first is Title IV-D reform, to dismantle and totally change and reform the way child support is being weaponized at the state level, which is creating all the problems for 50-50 equal shared parenting bills, custodial interference bills, child support reform bills. We've got to fix the funding mechanisms at the federal level. So Title IV-D reform is one. Oh, by the way, thanks so much. I see, I think it was Brian that put my information up there. Yeah, if anybody can contribute, these trips are unbelievably expensive, as you can imagine, with airfare and hotel and conference fees. And when you're going on trip after trip after trip, and I think of that because a lot of the people are here. Matter of fact, that Phil that I was talking to that's running for governor of Kansas. Kansas is probably one of the lowest dollar states in the country to run a race. I mean, look at it. It's all flat land and cows, okay? To give you an idea, in Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, his governor's campaign was a $200 million campaign. One campaign for governor, $200 million. Ron DeSantis, his campaign for governor in Florida, $80 million. Americans for Prosperity, their budget every year, $74 million for lobbying. And people get mad at me asking for money to cover an airfare and a hotel to come to an event like this. Guys, I'll tell you what, that is almost ridiculous. You ought to walk into this. Just slap yourself if you think there's something wrong with trying to ask for money to try and be able to put yourself in an environment in D.C. or Boston or play with the big boys to try and get some changes made. Matter of fact, you ought to be feeling like you're a disgrace if you try and put somebody down for trying to raise money, for trying to make a difference. My attitude is, what difference have you made without raising money? That hasn't worked for us, guys. So we need to raise the funds to get in front of the people that we need to be in front of. I've got the doors open, and I don't mean to be arrogant. It's just very factual. I've played defense too long on this, trying to say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm having to ask for money. Guys, I'll tell you what, I'm getting results here. We're opening doors at the White House, on the Hill, with HHS, but I need your help. So if you can contribute, Brian put the PayPal, the PayPal is starnetmark@yahoo.com, the Venmo Mark-Ludwig-18. But if you can contribute, I promise you, we're getting results, and you're about ready to see. So anyway, I say all that to say this, is right now, we are getting to the point where we are starting to make a difference. And now is when some of you guys are going to be coming with me. And that starts in November, and that's why I said, a new day is dawning at this point. Change is being made. The doors have opened. It's taken me years and dozens of meetings to lay the foundation. The foundation is now laid. So now is where we need to step up the pace. So in November, for the first time ever, just like that meeting at the old State House where they signed the Constitution for Massachusetts, just like the meeting at the South Side Church when they planned the Boston Tea Party, And when they, read that on July 18th of 1776, when Thomas Kraft Jr. stood on that balcony and read the Declaration for the first time in public, that's pretty much what's going to be happening. I don't mean to be melodramatic. I just mean very sincerely. Guys, you're going to witness history, the first time ever, that a group of advocates, not just me, but a whole group of advocates from the shared parenting community are going to be meeting directly with members of Congress, with chief of staff for members of Congress, with policy directors for members of Congress, with White House administration officials in one trip. But to do that, I need to make sure that we have vetted people. I don't want some yahoo out here wearing a t-shirt that says all judges are corrupt. I've spent too much time trying to build the relationships to have somebody ruin it. Guys, at the federal level, it is professionalism at the highest level. And you're going to notice that when you walk down the Russell Senate building, you're going to notice everybody wearing a dark blue suit and a white tie or a white shirt and a red tie. They don't wear kinds of trendy clothes or anything like that. They don't have all kinds of wacky stuff going on. No, there is a look and a feel if you want to, perform at the professional level in D.C. So between now and November, for those of you that are a part of the Legislative Leadership Development Team, I am going to be doing a ton of different Zooms, town hall meetings. First one starts on Monday. When I get back in town Monday night at 7 o'clock, we're going to hit the ground running. We have a lot of information to get on you. You need to learn how you deal with legislators at the federal level. It's very different than at the state level. You need to learn how to conduct yourself in the offices. You're going to need to know the logistics. Where are the buildings? The Russell Building, the Dirksen, the Hart Building, the Rayburn Building, the Longworth Building, the Cannon Building. What's the differences in culture amongst the building? I need to show you how to use the tunnels to go back and forth. I need to show you a bunch of logistical stuff like that. We need to plan an orchestrated strategy. We're going to be creating teams of 5 people each. Each person is going to have their role. Just like when you have hockey, you're going to have a center, you're going to have offense, you're going to have defense, you're going to have a goalie. When you have baseball, you're going to have a pitcher, you're going to have a first baseman, you're going to have a catcher. We're developing teams of 5 people, and each person on each team is going to have a role. And it's a distinct role. We don't have time for chaos. So everybody has to be, a well-oiled machine when we walk into an office, to the point where it is so orchestrated and so organized that we could literally take somebody. Thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate that very much. But to where we could take person number 1 from team 4 and swap them out with person number 1 from team 1, and that team is still going to ride on roll. Just like as I always talk about a Chick-fil-A. Doesn't matter who's flipping the fries, it's the system they use for the fries. That's what we want. We want 5 players on each team, that everybody has a role, everybody's coming a specific point, and everybody knows what the transition is, and how you move from person 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and how the person does the close. It's going to be an orchestrated presentation that we're going to give, so we can give that same presentation over and over and over and over. And that's what Ryan Powell, appreciate you very much. But it needs to be that orchestrated, because I'll tell you what, those legislators talk amongst themselves. And when you're organized like that, that creates an attitude. They're like, these people know what they're doing. They are sharp. If you have 10 people going and everybody says a different thing, it's chaos and you lose ground. So we only have a few weeks to get people understanding the strategy, the culture, the philosophy of what we're going to do, the details of what we're going to do, the knowledge, the education. So, hey, appreciate you, Brian. You really are. Like I said, I was bragging about you to somebody else. And by the way, I got a special gift for you. I'm not kidding, Ryan. A personal gift from the White House that you're going to get. You're the only person I've given this to. I got one for me and one for you. So you got a little gift coming in the mail. But this has to be a well-organized machine. So the first town hall is going to be Monday night. I'm not trying to sell the Legislative Leadership Development Program, but I do insist that if you want to come in November, if you're not interested enough and committed enough and determined enough to want to be a part of that program, then it's not fair for you to be a part of the team. The team is only as strong as its weakest link. So if you're interested, I think somebody put the link up there. Go to stlmarkludwig.com. There's one thing you can register just for the free emails to keep updated. There's the training class, which the next full training class starts October 13th. So you could register for that. That's a really deep immersion, mainly in state legislation. And then, Jesse, yes, Mississippi. Ironically, I just talked to your former Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn. talk to him tonight, and he's going to be giving me some leads in Mississippi. But the main thing, if you want to be in November, we need you to click memberships, and it'll say Legislative Leadership Development Program. Register for that, and I need you to dive in. Like I said, I don't want you to register. I want you to dive in. I want you to have a hunger and a thirst and a desire for knowledge, that every morning when you're waking up, you say, what can I do to be better tomorrow than I was today? What can I learn? How can I improve in my self-development area? How can I improve in my professional area? How can I learn more about Title 4D? Because we have a lot of changes. And the 3 changes, as I said, change number 1, Title 4D reform. Change number 2, a commission for boys and men at the White House. And that's going to help women too. So I know women don't think that you're being left out. Trust me, the changes that are going to take place there are going to help out. Casey, thank you very much. It just showed up. Somebody made a Cash App donation. So thank you very much, Casey. And then the third change that we have to work on a lot is the renewal of the Violence Against Women's Act, which has nothing to do with violence against women. It has to do with making bogus allegations that you can't fight that lead to the stupid Cadence laws and Peaky's laws and all these stupid other things all across the country that came as a result of the Violence Against Women's Act. It's coming up for reauthorization in 2027. And we have a chance, because I personally am in direct contact with the people that are going to be working on that. But we got to get our work together. So I'm developing 3 teams of people. It's people interested in Title 4D reform, people interested in the White House Commission for Boys and Men, and people interested in the renewal of fighting the renewal of the Violence Against Women's Act. But we're putting the teams together now, guys. I am very, very excited. Oh, thanks for sending stars. Those stars help too, guys. But very, very excited. So, as I said, a lot of excitement. Last week was a phenomenal week in D.C. This week was a phenomenal week in Boston. But get ready, put your seatbelts on. If you guys want to be a part of the change, join the Legislative Leadership Development Team and plan on coming with me in November. We are, by the way, going to be doing a first high-dollar fundraiser event. And it's a high-dollar one. Now, you can still do the lobbying and everything like that without having to pay that. So don't panic and don't think, oh my gosh, do I have to spend? But as most of you know, like I said, Americans for Prosperity, $74 million a year, every year they spend. How much are we collectively spending in the shared parenting community? We're not even a fleck, a speck. So we need to start doing some professional things. So I'm going to be it'll be a high-dollar thing. So if you're interested, shoot me a private message, shoot me an email. But what I'm looking at putting together right now, I don't have all the details finalized, but it's looking pretty darn good. That included in the package will be a private reception with members of Congress and a couple of members of the White House administration. Not like the president or vice president or anybody like that, but some pretty influential people with this administration that are going to be coming to a private reception that I'll be doing on Tuesday night, November 4th. I can't promise yet, but it does look like there's a slight possibility that I'll be able to bring a handful of people with me to the White House for a private White House briefing on Wednesday morning. I can't promise that yet. The details are all being put together. So if you think you've got the money to do a major donation, because can you imagine the clout, the influence, the credibility we have with legislators when we're doing things like that? Much different than a ragtag people showing up at Capitol with a t-shirt on. When you're hosting major events with respected members of U.S. Congress, members of the White House administration, other influencers from around the country, and we've got some other influencers, by the way, some heads of some pretty big organizations that have already said that if I put that on, they're going to show up. That gives credibility to the legislators. They're like, holy cow, Ludwig got those guys to attend? This must be a legitimate deal. And then when the White House hears that we had that reception, and then when they hear that we have the reception at the White House, it's all a circle, guys. It really comes back to us. But it costs money to put some of these things on. The reception alone, the minimum for the reception is a $10,000 bill to be able to put the reception on like we need to do it. It's a heck of a lot of money. So I am going to be looking for some major donors. So if anybody has the ability, most of us, I don't, just so you know. So I'm not offended if people don't. But somewhere out there, hopefully we have somebody that says, you know what? If you're working your butt off that hard, I've got some money around, I own a company, I can help foot the bill for some of these things. Shoot me either a private message or an email to thestartatmark@yahoo.com. As I tell you what, you're going to want to be a part of this. This will be, I'm not kidding, and I'm not being melodramatic. This will be just as exciting as going to the old State House when John Adams and John Hancock and James Otis and Samuel Adams and Paul Revere were meeting at the old State House, or when they were meeting at the Southside Church, or when they were planning the Boston Tea Party. That's how exciting this is going to be. We are taking things to a new level. So appreciate every single one of you. I'll be, by the way, if anybody is in Boston, I'll be meeting people at the Westin Copley Hotel tomorrow on the 4th floor from noon till 2 o'clock. So from noon till 2 o'clock, if you can make it to the Westin Copley, feel free to come. It is going to be casual, by the way. You don't have to wear a suit. I was afraid sometimes these hoity-toity type hotels, they want you to wear a jacket or something like that in the meeting room areas. Feel free to wear blue jeans and a nice dress shirt, because that's what I'm going to be wearing. I'm going to be wearing jeans and a dress shirt tomorrow. But from noon to 2 o'clock at the Westin Copley Hotel downtown Boston, from noon to 2 o'clock, would love to see you. I'll be back in Missouri late tomorrow night. And as I said, anybody, if you register for that Legislative Leadership Development Program, make sure you do it quick, because on Monday night, I'm going to be doing the first really good detailed explanation of what we're going to be doing in Washington, D.C. I will also be at a National Association for Christian Lawmakers convention the end of October, meeting with a bunch of legislators from across the country again. And then everything is all hands on deck pushing for November. So appreciate every single one of you. I mean that very sincerely. I know some of you, last week we had 2 people donate $5. And I'll just tell you what, guys, could you imagine if everybody who ever watches these videos, because on the replays, some of these will get a couple thousand replays. Could you imagine if everybody who ever watched this video donated $5? Guys, it would be game over. So don't ever feel like you're, not donating enough. Trust me, I know what it took to give that $5. I know you gave up coffee, you gave up a meal, you gave up something for that $5. And for those of you that have the ability to donate 25, 50, or 100, I really do appreciate that. And I think of that very consciously. Some of you know, that's why I do the postcards. Every once in a while people are like, hey man, I can't believe you took the time out to write a postcard. I do that very specifically. My pastor is one of them who taught that to me. Some of you know Phillips, Craig, and Dean. Sean Craig is my pastor at my church, even though he won't sing his own songs in our church, because he said the church should not be about him. It should be about the mission of Jesus Christ. But he talks about the fact that he does that a lot. And he said it forces him to remember why he's doing what he's doing. And so the reason I send those postcards out is every time I sit at a desk and I write postcards when I'm on these trips, in my mind, it puts my mind and takes the ego out of it. At least I hope so. I know some of you may doubt that. But it helps try to remove the ego and say, you know what, I'm not doing this for the Mark Ludwig show. I'm not doing it for a statue or a trophy. I'm doing it for a Ryan Powell. I'm doing it for a Brian Lee. I'm doing it for a Linda Jones. I'm doing it for Vincent. I'm doing it for Casey. I'm doing it for you guys. I'm doing it for all of us. And more importantly, I'm doing it for the kids. And that's why I send those postcards every time, to remember the heart of why I'm in these cities. So I want to let you guys know very sincerely from the heart, I appreciate every single one of you. So thanks a lot, guys. I got to working on my notes here. I was trying to write my debriefs before I go to bed so that I don't forget who all I met with this trip. But thanks a lot. I appreciate every single one of you. Don't forget, if you're interested in coming to November, hurry and register. stlmarkludwig.com. Memberships, Legislative Leadership Development Program. And I will look forward to talking to you on Monday night. Thanks, guys.